to attend school in Little Rock, Arkansas. In 1877, a law was passed which forbid the use of federal military resources in domestic law enforcement in any manner, popularly known as posse comitatus, held up for more than a century. In the past 2 decades, Congress has begun to chip away at the firewall between democratic policing and militarization. Militarization as a bulwark is anti-democratic. Local police departments have become the recipient of military-grade weaponry, guns, armor, planes. They got helicopters. They got everything you would need. And he goes on to make the point the governor of Missouri did not invoke martial law. That's true. He did send in the guard, but he did not invoke martial law, which he could. So Jeremiah did not do that. And their task is to guard the command post, which is a very flimsy way of doing it. He's telling the racists in Missouri that he's doing something. Congress must firmly reestablish the firewall, this is what he suggests, between the military by reinstating the intent of posse comitatus. He said, I warned in 2007 the dangers of a bill which permitted the federal government to put troops on the ground in the U.S. This has been continually happening. I was listening, I think it was Nancy Lockhart's show, where they were talking about the increased militarization of police in Chicago. Of state, that's been common to put state troopers in with others. In Los Angeles, of course, the county police are the police, it's not the LAPD. They are there, and now they have pulled in FBI agents into Chicago to supposedly take care of, quote-unquote, the gang problem. Now, that problem can be taken care of by the Chicago PD, but it goes much more beyond that. There's big money in the selling of drugs. He goes on to say the Justice Department needs to fund programs which will train or retrain local cops. That is one of the things that, to me, is more of a waste of time. Those who serve in law enforcement are given a special trust. They'll talk about that. They had several hundred police types marching in Missouri in support of the killer Wilson. And the principle is, according to Representative Kucinich, well-trained, culturally diverse, demilitarized local cops. And that is one of the issues there. This guy, Wilson, did not live in Ferguson. He lived in one of the little villages by Ferguson. He's no longer there. So this is for Dennis Kucinich, a little bit of the history and a little bit of the history as far as him being a mayor in the city of Cleveland. And Cleveland, he was a boy mayor. Even he was criticized at one time for being opportunist as Dennis Kucinich in the latter part of his career going forward. Let's see if we can pick up. Let's get to Redstate comment. This is from Right-Wing Erickson. His Redstate is titled, Ferguson is not binary. No conservative is saying police do not need to be able to outshoot, outgun the bad guys. But many of us are saying police are more quickly than ever before to resort to playing soldier when they could accomplish the same just as policemen. Very good point to make. Right-Wing out of Houston retweeted this, and we retweeted. Police do a good, necessary job, but if power corrupts men and absolute power corrupts absolutely, we should be wary of putting our neighborhood men in blue in camouflage, a helmet, an AR-15 inside an armored personnel carrier except for the most serious circumstances. And I'm kind of reading this out of order, but he goes on to say conservatives are a law and order bunch. There's no doubt about that. The Pew poll will prove that. We'll get to it in a minute. It is, in fact, the natural order to gather into society and succeed our individual rights of protection to government bodies that wield the swords on our behalf, but the swords can be turned on us as we become a society where more and more legislation and regulations cause more and more well-meaning people to accidentally run afoul of law and rules. We should be more concerned with the militarization of our police and extending the jurisdiction of law enforcement agencies. One can view the events in Ferguson and decide it was a good call too before rioting ever began to start up. They suit up the police as soldiers. The world is not binary, regardless of how one views the events of Ferguson. We should all be troubled by the over-militarization of routine police activities. We should all be troubled at the growing number of well-documented cases of heavy-handed local and state police. Being a conservative means we should support the judicious use of force. It also means that unlike the liberals, who routinely turn a blind eye to abuse of state targets towards their opponents, we should not simply presume the ends justify the means. That is from Mr. Right-Wing Erickson at his Redstate. You can go there and read a Right-Wing's column. Let's go to the militarization here. I hope we still have this up. Just 1 second here. We need to find that, so we need to pause a second. Alright, we finally found the item. I had put it on Facebook earlier, and this is an inventory of some of the weaponry involved here. They are using long-range acoustic devices. We talked about that. That's LRADs. It's basically a sound cannon that has the ability to send targeted blasts of sounds designed to dispense military targets, pirates, and crowds. They are not just noisy. The sound they emit is powerful enough to cause severe physical pain and headaches to those in range. According to an executive at the firm that manufactures these, the devices can cause permanent hearing loss if used in any more than short blasts. The police appear to use these LRADs to dispense protesters on Sunday, the 17th, Wednesday, the 13th. Video of their use on Sunday, part of which is embedded here, and it's up there. You can look at it. Appears to show they are continuously used for several minutes. LRADs look like large satellite dish and are typically mounted on trucks. The police-grade model appeared to be used in Ferguson emits sound and ear-shattering 149 decibels, well above 130 decibel threshold for hearing loss. I can remember once we had an action in Philadelphia, and there downtown, it was a temporary agency that I believe charged people like $300 to get jobs. And I was with the, I believe it was the Philadelphia Unemployment Project. Anyway, we were demonstrating out there, and they were using their sound system at above 130, because when you're in an area where you have large buildings, etc., and you turn up the volume on the speakers, you can get that, but not like these weapon-grade devices are used. And they show them, and we'll put a picture up there. The resistant ambush protected device are heavy armored cars designed to withstand detonation of landmines. IDE, they were first deployed in 2007 by the U.S. military. In Iraq, there is when the militants, as they call them, were using IEDs. The MRAPs are being used in Ferguson, a place with neither landmines nor LEDs. This is according to the chief there, the racist Tom Jackson. Replied, people are using bombs now. Bombs, hell. However, they have no reports of bombs being used there. There were some Molotov cocktails, totally different situation from an IDE. No IDEs have come up yet. They look tank-like. They roll down a suburban American street. They're in fact not tanks because they're driven on wheels rather than treads. The officers on the street of Ferguson deployed wear body armor, including gas masks, visors, prompting a number of military veterans to point out that the police were wearing more protective gear to confront protesters than actual soldiers in war zones. Former Seattle police chief Norman Stamper warned that when police dressed in military uniforms, they contribute to an atmosphere of hostility. That is basically what they want to contribute to. They also have the M4 carbine. We'll put a picture of that so you can see it. Armed with rifles, which it's a short-barreled 5.6 millimeter rifle based on the military's M4 carbine. So in other words, they've got some things going here. The rifles are loaded with rubber and wooden bullets. Now, wooden bullets can cause you some problems. A minister from the African American Methodist, church was hit with one of those. We'll try to get that. Police have used tear gas to dispense people, no doubt about that. Tear gas is a chemical mist, a chemical that irritates the eyes, mucous membranes, etc. The gas is often fired from canister shells. Chemical Weapons Convention, this is of 1993, to which the U.S. prohibits the use of tear gas in combat. Now, there's been some problems with that. Someone on mustard gas, but no, in combat. However, the treaty contains an exemption, including domestic riot control. Now, this is what they're able to do here. But you can't use it in battlefield, but you can use it in Missouri. So that is an interesting situation. You see the vehicles these characters have got. And let's just get the word from this executive of the firm that actually markets this stuff. And hopefully we can get it up here in a second. Future of trial control, security technology. When faced with rowdy protesters, police have a number of tools at their disposal. This is from The Economist in 2004. Back that far back there. Between non-lethal weapons, they call them, in 1997 and 2003. The American Joint Non-Lethal Weapons Program, which coordinates the development of those in the military, an annual budget of $22 million. And it was a $43 million there. We talked about the long-range acoustic devices there, and even had instructions in Arabic. And Carl Gantner is the American Technology Corporation, that's in San Francisco. They make the LRADs. You definitely don't want to be there within 100 meters of the noise. This device is intended to be used in short bursts at distances of 300 meters, since long exposure can lead to permanent hearing loss. There'll be a lot of lawsuits about this. It can also be used to flush people out of buildings, and has been deployed on American warships to warn off small craft that get too close to them. The LRADs that zip the skin via the sense of touch. The Air Force has a microwave weapon called active denial technology, which incapacitates crowds in its way. The microwaves are a form of electronic magnet radiation, like visible light or radio waves. They got, I guess the people in Ferguson got that yet. They spent $50 million developing it, and $9 million have been devoted to evaluating the victims. So in other words, they have got a gamut of things they can use in this so-called non-lethal category, and we'll put this on Facebook for you, for your viewing, and there, let me just check one more time here in with the people